A common problem faced by truly unique products is changing consumer behavior. How do you convert buyers when they aren't yet actively looking for your type of product? Today's guest has driven tremendous growth for her business by utilizing her deep experience in the category, understanding an underserved need, and knowing how to ask questions in order to best communicate her brand messaging.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
I'm really excited to be interviewing Lekha Vyas today. She is the founder and CEO of Elvy Lab. Their website is elvylab.com. And maybe you can see a difference in my skin. I don't know, my audience that's able to watch this in video, but she was nice enough to send some samples that I've been trying out. It's skincare targeted at men, which we definitely need it. As men, we don't often think about it. And there are reasons we definitely should be. So I've been using it, loving it. And we're going to talk about the product, but also the story behind it. But first of all, Lekha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John, for having me. This is super exciting. And I'm glad that you're loving Elvy Lab so far.
Absolutely. So can you talk about, you'll do a better job than me of describing the actual line of products and how they help.
So Elvy Lab really, it's not just skincare. So it came up as an idea of I've been in beauty my whole life. I wanted to start something of my own. And given my life, which we'll get into later, I decided to create something that's targeted to men. So the idea is that we start with skincare, and then in the future, we're going to go full head to toe, one-stop shop for all men's personal care grooming needs. So with Elvy Lab right now, we have one-stop shop for all skincare, preventative aging, and just making sure, you go from 0 to a 10 from a skin perspective, because that's where most of the attention is since the Zoom culture. So in our skincare regimen, there's 4 products. So the way we did this, we actually, given my beauty experience, I formulated this brand with a dermatologist, Ivy League Derm from Stanford, and I have 2 scientists on my team from an R&D standpoint. So we wanted to create something that gives you the maximum results, but at the same time, it's super simple to follow. So men are simple creatures. We can't really confuse them or you'll lose them. So we wanted to create something that is super, super brainless almost. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, like it actually says on the bottles. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 step, 4-piece kit. So it has a cleanser. So you can throw that bar soap away for your face. Don't put that bar soap on your face. You need a cleanser. And then we have an anti-aging serum, which actually helps tighten your skin, brighten your skin, and actually helps build collagen. Number 3 is a moisturizer, because that's the biggest issue for men is hydration, but they don't want to look oily. So we created a product that's actually super simple and light on your skin, but also provides hydration and taking away the greasiness at the same time, which is really hard to find in the market. And our 4th one is our hero product, which really helps protect the eyes, the dark circles, the wrinkles, the raccoon eyes, if you call it, because the first thing that people notice on anyone's face, scientifically proven, is the eyes. And they tell a story from an aging standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, and, genetic standpoint as well. So our eye cream actually combats all eye issues at the same time. So that's why we wanted to create something holistically where products layer and marry on top of each other for maximum results. And we have clinicals for that. So science-backed, simple, clean, easy skincare for men.
And it, as I mentioned before, it does. This product or this line of products works. It's phenomenal. It is a hurdle, though, that I know you run into where, to be honest, I use a cleanser. Historically, that's what I've done. And that's most men, if that, right? Like you said, it might be a bar of soap for many people, and that's kind of it. So how do you overcome that hurdle of men kind of pushing back, like, I don't need it, et cetera, to realize that we really do for our skin?
Wow, that really has been the biggest challenge, right, with this brand. So I think it's education, right? That's the biggest thing that's missing. Historically, when you think about men, they're simple creatures. They're like, oh, just a bar soap. And you'd be surprised. A lot of men don't even use any soap. They just shower with water, which is very unhygienic. So if you're listening, please use something to clean your body and your face. So that has been a challenge for us. But what we have noticed, since launching the skin that men listen to their female counterparts for the most part. It could be a mother, it could be a sister, it could be a girlfriend, it could be a female friend. They actually seek females' advice. If not, they're stealing their products from the bathroom cabinet and applying that and not knowing what it does. Just because your wife or your girlfriend is using some $300 cream for her face, that does not mean it's going to give you the same results. It might actually make things worse for you. So I think education is one thing that we're super hyper focused on. And also when it comes to marketing and targeting, we are understanding the consumer behavior when it comes to men, like what really influences them, what they aspire to do. So understanding like really the science behind the men's psychology, I think is super key for us as we continue to build the brand and scale.
Oh, I appreciate that you shared that some men are showering with just water. So I feel like I'm doing a lot. So at least I'm using soap, right? Or have been historically using soap. That's pretty funny that I'm like, I never thought of that. That would have been even easier. But it's so true. Like, it's funny. You go down the men's aisle, like women, you've got something for everything, and some can be very expensive. They give some give real results, right? For men, it's like, all right, so this bottle has shampoo, face wash, skin wash, toothpaste, all in the same thing, right? Like it's about simplicity. And the connection that you've made is, okay, once as a man, you overcome that hurdle of realizing, okay, I know I need to do something, but I don't know what. Now it's like, keep it, as you said, as simple as possible. And it really is. It's, that number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And it's, I don't want to like learn something new. And it, for me, it was so easy to use. And that's great that you resolved that. Now there's also a story behind. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing to that. So one thing that, because we did listen to our customers, so before we built the brand, I know 4 products, that's daunting. It's a lot for guys. They can't. So we actually have a selfie quiz. And by the way, guys, those pictures don't come to me. So if you take, an embarrassing selfie where you don't look sexy, I don't get access to that. So it's actually all data driven. So you take a picture, the AI tool assesses your skin, and given on your lifestyle, there's a couple of questions that we ask, like, are you like something super simple? Do you have a regimen? Like, what are your goals from a skin standpoint? Given all of that, it actually suggests what you can start with. You can start with 1 product, you can start with 2 products, you can go with the whole thing, all 4. But I think men are getting to a point now, whether they're going through a divorce, whether they're seeing first signs of aging, the lifestyle, our food is so processed, it all like starts in the gut and actually starts showing on your face, your body, everything, your scalp. So I think men are noticing that. And we're also raising a very single, lonely generation of men as well. So I think they are seeing the need of trying to look and feel good. And gym alone just does not help, right? Like wearing nice clothes just doesn't help, because now we're on camera all the time. So I think men are seeking solutions, but they also wanted to keep it simple. So I think the selfie quiz, the regimen, that's super easy. I think that in conjunction, they just work together to solve this problem.
It's a great tool. And you brushed over kind of briefly in the very beginning, the Zoom culture. I'm going to dive into that a little bit. It should help us realize how it's more important today. And I think more of us are realizing that, men and women, right? Where so often now our face becomes what people see. And oftentimes in Zoom, it's really zoomed in close, et cetera. You've got it might be you and one other person, might be a group of people, et cetera. But we are seeing so much more. I've been on the phone. My business has been on for 18 years, right? And in the early days, it was all over the phone. And I felt like I'd finally figured that out. I'm like, now I got to learn Zoom and actually present myself like in a visual way, which obviously our business is about video. So I hopefully get that. But it has changed really the way we interact with people. And it's the first thing, as you said, people see, even if we're not with them, right? So in person, yes, even more so on Zoom, because you really stare at someone's face as you interact with them. So it becomes that much more important to make sure you're being your best self, right? Pants don't matter as much anymore, right? What we're wearing, people don't see them, our shoes, et cetera. That used to matter a lot more, but at least in the virtual space, it comes down to the space. Can you talk a little bit about the origin story? So how you developed this product, this line of products?
Ooh, very long story. So I actually started my career in consumer. I worked at Procter and Gamble, and after that, I've been in like deep into beauty. So I've worked with top companies like L'Oreal, Chanel, Estee Lauder. I was in the founding team for JLo Beauty, Ellen DeGeneres, and I had other 15 portfolio celebrity brands that I helped scale and manage. So I think for me, I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always been quite ambitious and wanted to create something, but it didn't trigger me until I'm going to get into the story. It's a little emotional, but we'll talk about it. So my mom actually got diagnosed with cancer about 2 years ago. And as I was taking care of her in the cancer ward, we were just reminiscing some stories of family and stuff and childhood. And I did have a cousin who, due to bullying and self-esteem issues. And in my opinion, when I used to think about him, I was like, wow, he was just so hot. He was so good looking. What happened, mom? And she, then she told me, she was like, it was because of suicide driven by XYZ. And I also had lost a friend in my late teens as well due to the same, right? Like when men and women had puberty, our needs are very different. Everyone, maybe not kids now, we all went through an ugly duckling phase. And the insecurities that were stemmed during that phase, like women actually had, back in the day, we had Walmart, Kmart, right, to go shop at. Now kids have Sephora. But I think for men, there was still a stigma, and I still continue to see this, where women have all the avenues of trying to look and feel good. Like they have skipped that ugly duckling phase in their teens, but I think boys are still kind of struggling with that. You have acne, it's hormonal acne, and then you gain weight and you have little hair showing up. And the bullying culture I think it's like at its peak right now. So I think when you see kids that are struggling with those kind of issues and self-esteem and whatnot, and they just don't have an avenue to try to look and feel their best, you end up losing people. And I think for me, that was a motivation and, personal, like a moment that my mom and I could discuss and share and build something off of. So that was really the reason why I launched and built this line, because I want to create a safe space and avenue for men for all their grooming and personal care needs, just to help them look better. And it's one step in the right direction of taking care of our men as well, because women have 80% of the consumer market. So I think that was really just, the idea behind Elvy Lab. And given my background, had I not spent so much time in beauty, I don't think I would have been ready to be an authority in this space, to be able to discuss the products at the extent that I can, to be able to talk about building a business around my experience. I think a lot of people jump into businesses with just the idea of making money. And sure, that's possible, but I do think people should take up businesses and ventures with some level of expertise, because you can actually understand it from inside out.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little about your background. So you peeked at it, but let's go in a little bit more detail. What is your background in beauty, and also M&A? Eventually you got into mergers and acquisitions, private equity side. So how has all of that helped you to better run and launch this business?
So I started my career kind of in operations and supply chain, which, back then I did go to a supply chain and marketing school. And in school, you don't really learn so much. You learn the basics, but you don't really apply them. So it's all on the job learning. But I do think the ops background really helped me do R&D, have really sexy margins when it comes to, product building, which is super key when you're working with investors and trying to scale a company. Also, where to source products from, understanding the best sourcing solutions, understanding how to mitigate things like COVID that happened, and, being able to come on top when those type of crises arise and stuff. And then I was able to move into M&A, and I did that with L'Oreal. So, that was the land of opportunities for me. And I was able to pivot and move into the M&A side of things. And that really taught me what scale looks like, right? What do you need when you're building a company from scratch with one product? How do you expand into other categories? What to look for when it comes to expansion? And customer is always key. You always have to ask what people actually want. They like to be a part of the journey. And that way you're addressing the problem firsthand directly. And then when you scale products and categories into a full-fledged brand, then you're able to at least understand financially, where it's a 80-20 rule, where should you focus your attention on as a founder and a CEO, and also what investors look like. So if you're trying to exit, which I would like to exit my company, I better understand now from an M&A standpoint of what I did, what people would be looking for. So at least I'm not wasting time in learning new things when I don't have experience with that. So I think to me, that was really, really, really key in being able to launch Elvy Lab.
And it can be so helpful, right? It's not crucial. We've talked
Yeah.
with inventors and founders that, came in without experience
Yeah.
and learn along the way, but it can be so helpful
Absolutely.
of finding something, right? And maybe yours
Yeah.
seems perfect for what you're doing. It doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be the case. But even with that, right? Every business has challenges along the way, and you certainly have as well. We've talked about a couple of these in previous
Yeah.
conversations, but one of which was you mentioned to me how you were early on sort of forced, if that's the right word, to be behind the scenes a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about that challenge and maybe how you would do things differently next time?
I still go through that pretty much on a daily basis. So when I built this company and, I was doing my marketing strategy with the team that I had hired at the time, and they were like, we did a SWOT analysis. And in the SWOT, the opportunity was to not put my name on the brand at all or have no association. Don't talk about it because you're a female and you should not be building a men's line. So that was the feedback I got for the longest time, almost, I think, 8 months into the brand post launch, that I kind of dissociated myself and I was just working behind the scenes. And some investors were like, why are you not talking about your own company? You actually, out of all the people that we have seen in this space, you actually have the authority to build a product that you built and you're not talking about it. So that's a huge missed opportunity. I was like, I keep getting this almost every day that I should not have a founder association with the brand because I'm a female. Then my point was, all right, let's talk about the founder of Victoria's Secret. I'm sure he's not dressing up in, female lingerie every single day, or Pretty Little Thing, which is also lingerie slash, clothing line, all for women. And there's so many founders that you see that are male, but they have built female beauty products. They're not wearing a red lipstick every single day. So when you talk about those stories, somehow it is more acceptable for men to launch beauty and, lingerie and clothing products for females and be able to have like $1 billion exit. But when it's the opposite, a female doing something for men. And by the way, I think I should be talking more about it because men, again, go to females to seek advice when it comes to grooming and personal care. And, they are trying to impress her, just, in the majority, I guess. So that all the more just makes sense that you should be seeking a female's advice that's also an expert in the field to be able to tell you what would work the best for you. And to be honest, my friends, some investors, they're actually very grateful about that advice that I've given them. And they get compliments. They're like, dude, I had no idea that I needed skincare. Now I'm getting compliments. I just feel so good about that. So thank you for doing that. You need to do more of that. So now I have tried to shift as a few months ago, really like being in the forefront of my company and talking about it and actually explaining, skin is the largest organ and you have to take care of it. And this is one small step in the right direction.
And you've got true credibility because of your
Yeah,
background, where all of this becomes more meaningful to men as the audience,
exactly.
right? And I love how you talked about, like, at the end of the day, it's men want to look good for women, right? Whether it's a spouse or friends or people we know or
Yeah,
whatever. It's
yeah.
and the fact that you know beauty, but you're also looking
Mhm.
for it in a man as well. So I think that all that makes sense, and I'm glad you've kind of
Exactly.
pivoted from that. So
Yeah.
another one you talked about previously with me is your early team, right? So you talked about potentially maybe if you started things differently or started over again, that you might bring in a co-founder or another counterpart a little bit earlier with more
Mhm.
marketing experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one thing that I do want to start with is like, I think when people go into building businesses, I think the mistake a lot of people made, and I actually never understood that because maybe because I've done therapy, I don't know. But I've also been very self-aware since I was very young to be like, what are my strengths and what are my opportunities, right? Like nobody's perfect. So given where I had started my career, I came in with a lot of confidence. So like building a product for me was actually the easiest thing. When I talk to a marketer, for them, it's like, oh my God, like supply chain, creating a product, like takes 3 years. Like I just don't know how to do any of that. And of course, there's a lot of pillars to it, which to me is just so easy. It comes naturally. But my shortcoming is that I'm not a marketer. Like I've touched every function in the face of the earth except true marketing. I've done product management, but I haven't done true marketing. And marketing is complicated. It's forever evolving. Like with Zoom, things completely changed, right? Like not Zoom, sorry, with COVID. And post-COVID brands needed different kind of strategy. We were once super retail heavy, then we went D2C, and now it has shifted. So for me, I think had I started with a co-founder that was a solid CMO and they had started this journey with me from, ground zero, that would have been a little bit of a different journey today than me trying to learn marketing, which of course I think every founder should know every element of their business. But at the same time, if I'm not an expert in something, I'm going to get somebody else to do the job better than me. So, not having ego and pride and not in saying I don't know something and I'm not good at it. I think it's definitely a strength that I have. But if I could do things differently, I would have just started with a co-founder because again, seeking funding, team is everything. People look at who you're working with. Is it a good match? Right? Are you complementing each other's skill set? I think those are the key things that people look at. And that way, like you have a sounding board to be like, pick up the phone, talk to your co-founder. Am I crazy to make this decision? So you have like, a partner in crime to be able to like take risks together, whether good or whether bad. And then you have another set of eyes on things. So that just, I think, cuts down a lot of time and resources spent in solutions and, creating solutions for the problems. So versus doing it solo.
And it is very different when you talk about a co-founder versus an employee or a team member,
Yes.
whatever it might be. I like how you talked about, picking up the phone, and on the other end, an employee can be great and helpful, but the partner has the same skin in the game as you, right? So it just
Exactly.
changes maybe how they respond. They're thinking about this when they leave the office, right? They're thinking about the business
Absolutely.
day and night alongside you to make sure that it works well. And I did this. I actually had a co-founder of my business many years ago. No longer, things have changed over the years, but
Yeah,
this is
always
now
happens
18 years ago.
too.
And in the early days, it was so helpful to have, like you said, a sounding board to go off and just kind of
Yeah,
figure stuff out together, not be alone or feel alone. Well, is there,
absolutely.
along the way, have you found any resources that have been helpful to you in your business?
Yes, I have. And it's such a founder's journey is so lonely. So I think I have had to kind of be very resilient and be shameless in this. So I will say I've had some really good mentors, right? From like my beauty world to my friends who actually pushed me into even taking this step, right? Because I think for a lot of people, that's like the scariest thing is like you left your really cushy corporate job, a sexy paycheck, a really good lifestyle to do a startup, which is super scary. And you just don't know when your next check is going to come from and whatnot. And I haven't taken a salary in like 2 years now, which is so scary. But I had people pushing me, they saw the strengths that I had. They saw, I had an appetite to be a good founder. So they actually pushed me, and they're like some are VC people, some are, just tech investors and whatnot. But I think learning from them, always be open to feedback. Like I got some really bad feedback at the beginning and I was so defensive. So when I look back at it, I'm like, God, I just feel so stupid. They were right, the whole time. They meant well for me. So having, a group of people that you can go to, and everyone that says that, oh, I did it all by myself, I call it BS, because whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's your partner, whether it's your dog, someone has always helped you in some capacity to overcome the problems that you have faced. And, if you truly have built a successful company, I think everyone has had a little bit of support from somebody. It might not be super direct, but there's always, people that are trying to help other people. So always look for those people, because being a founder is a very lonely journey. I still tap into my mentors that I haven't even talked to maybe 6 months. I did run into a problem of like, getting into a really bad deal that I got screwed over in, but I picked up the phone and she was a legal counsel and she's my mentor. She treats me like a daughter and she gave me some really sound advice. I didn't like it, but I still took it. So I think just having an open mind about, who you can trust and taking their advice really helps. Like you can read all the books, but again, you're reading the book alone. So it's really nice to have someone on your side to be able to like, again, act as a sounding board.
Well said. And, we all do have support in our lives, or should certainly. And,
Yeah,
it's the better support we have, the better we will be, the better our business will perform. And we're
exactly.
going to run into problems along the way. And you just need
Of
that sounding
course.
board to not feel or truly be alone at any point in the journey, whatever that looks like. It could be a co-founder, it could be a mentor, it could be whatever it
Yeah.
might be, but having sounding boards or family members even, right? That, as you said,
Yeah.
we could go back to. Was there anything we didn't talk about that you think could be helpful for our audience?
I think for anyone that's trying to build a company, and I think I am the biggest culprit of this, and I'm still trying to figure out how to overcome this, right? I think it's a pro and a con when I think about self growth and being a founder. It's when I talk to people. they're just like, oh my God, you're doing so well. Your brand, like you created a product, you did this, you did that. And I'm like, no, so what? Anybody can do that, right? Like you, as a founder, you just don't give yourself enough credit. But when you hear from another person's perspective that, being at the lowest of your lows, like, because I actually did end up losing my mom this year. So like the caretaking and then the loss and like building a company and like the challenges that come along with that. I never sat down and was like, you know what, Lakes, you actually did a decent job. Like, take a break. It's okay to take breaks and celebrate the small wins, because if you're not celebrating your small wins, you'll never be able to recognize them in the future as a true win. And those small wins are really what help you keep going on a day-to-day basis. Because again, being a founder, it's not fun and games all the time.
I love that. Great advice. It's something I try to live today. Even 18 years in, I need to have those small wins because I still hit challenges, right? Everybody does in their business, and the small wins help us get through those and get to the next big win, right? That is hopefully just around the corner. We always hope in those
and
those
celebrate
cases.
them with your loved ones, right? Even if you could be like, oh my God, I got this one small PO. But I think it's also worth celebrating because we just tend to forget what really means, what's important.
So true. Well, Lekha, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, John.
This has been a really fun interview. I do encourage our audience, please go to Elvy Lab, ELVYLAB.com. We'll put it in the show notes if you're driving. Check it out later. It's LinkedIn or YouTube, etc. So elvylab.com. Please go check out our product. As I could say, for myself, I've been loving it. So I can't wait to keep experiencing and see improving results. It's been a couple of weeks, I think, since I started using it, and already results are good. I'm sure it's just going to keep getting better. So thanks again, Lekha, for your time today.
Thanks, John. John, one more thing for the audience that are listening. I love John. He's an awesome person. So I'm actually giving 20% off for all your audience that are listening, and it's an evergreen code. It is skincare20 for 20% off on all your purchases. You could even buy single items outside of the kit. But yeah, so it's going to be 20%, whatever you want to check out with that code. So
did you know you can meet with a member of my team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help. So please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.